For coming in and catching this replay. You are in for a treat because today we are going to talk about how to stand out and remain competitive, stand out from the noise, continue to grow your business in a space where it feels like everyone literally sells the exact same thing. So if that is something you struggled with, you've battled with, that you've thought about, you are 100% in the right place. I am just going to share this out with my Facebook community, so just give me like 30 seconds. While I'm sharing, do me a favor and hit the share button wherever you are watching this. Share this with someone who could benefit from it. I would really appreciate that. Let me just get into my Facebook group, which if you're not a member of my Facebook group, it is the same name as my company, The Power Collective, for coaches, course creators, and consultants. So make sure to join us so you can get that information as well. And there's the video. Okay, great. So now we can hit the share button and we're going to share to the Facebook group. There we go. Okay, so we are all good to go there. Hello, my name is Kashira. I am a certified life, success, and business coach, and I specialize in working with high-achieving women in the coaching industry, the course industry, service providers in general. I help with everything from messaging, marketing, to positioning your high-ticket, premium-priced offer to attract the right aligned clients for you. And you can learn all about me at thepowercollective.co. But today, we are again talking about how to stand out and remain competitive when everyone sells literally the same thing. So what often happens, first and foremost, this is a safe space, so feel free to just drop any comments that you have. But the reality is, in this day and age, in almost every sector, whether you're a business coach, a life coach, a health coach, a virtual assistant, web designer, graphic designer, mom coach, you can find, I'm willing to bet if you go on Instagram, you can find 2 or 3 people immediately who do the exact same thing that you do. Their signature offer sounds just like yours. Or if you haven't even launched it, maybe an idea you've come across someone who's like, okay, this is the carbon copy, right? Not that they copied you, but this is just what it is, right? And so what happens when this occurs, right? There's often 2 extremes I see in a saturated industry. Extreme number 1 are the folks who don't even try. They believe there's literally no room for them. It's been done already. There's no point. Unfortunately, I'm not talking to y'all today, but if you are this particular person, know that there is always still room for you in a space. And then we have extreme number 2. And extreme number 2 are the folks who feel like they need to do the exact same thing as everyone else. And in this case, I'm not talking about copycats. I'm just saying you may have the perspective of feeling like success has one look, one path, one method. If you are someone who's fallen victim to signing up for every free thing you've seen in an Instagram ad, right? You're kind of always like jumping on a new train of one day you're doing paid ads, one day you're doing webinars, one day you're doing quizzes, one day you're doing challenges, simply because the folks that you follow, they've done these things or they talk about these things. You feel like that's the only way or the next best way for you to see success. And so we get so indoctrinated in success having one look, one path, one method that we do run the risk of just blending in. If you know a 6-figure coach or 7-figure coach in your industry, 9 times out of 10, even on a subconscious level, you've mirrored something you've seen or mirrored something you've seen them do, whether it's the brand colors, the website layout, the naming of a program, how they talk about their offer, how they even choose to market their offer. And the reality is when that begins to happen, we lose the magic of you. We lose the authenticity that comes along with what you do. And that at its core, at its essence, the magic of you is going to be the thing that makes you stand out. The truth of the matter is that the more sophisticated and saturated your market, then the more savvy and sophisticated of a customer you will have, which means to that customer, to that person, a lot of the things that we are kind of mirroring or taking from other folks can actually send up red flags. I see this a lot as a business coach, right? People will hear group program and immediately stop listening to the rest of what I'm saying because for some people, that's a red flag. For others, it can look like a ton of different things, but I'm just calling out and saying that sometimes the things that, again, we're adopting, like I've heard, I have to have a group program. That's the only way I can make a lot of money. I have to have a course because that's the only way I can actually have work-life balance. So I won't have to work as hard, right? These are the things we're mirroring. And the thing is, if everyone looks and sounds the same. For your customer, it can either cause this analysis paralysis, right? Where they're just like everybody, there is no differentiator. So now instead of investing with someone making a decision, they're just kind of stuck because there's nothing separating you guys. Or it can cause them to say, you know what? I'm not even really giving you a chance. I'm not deep diving into your content. I'm not booking a call. To me, you're just like everyone else. So I'm going to continue to go look for the diamond in the rough. And instead of that happening to you, I want you to be the diamond in the rough. So how do we do that? How do we stand out? How do we ensure you've built and positioned your program to attract these folks? If you've ever watched any trainings on positioning, you've heard a lot of the same things. If you've watched my previous trainings about positioning, we've talked a lot about what? Value, the transformation, right? The intangibles, the value. That is still relevant. Don't get me wrong, that is still relevant. But today, I want to give it to you from a different angle. Instead of simply thinking about positioning for the value, positioning for transformation, I want you to think about how can you ensure you've built and positioned, not just positioned, because let me do a quick tangent. Sometimes we're trying to position our programs to be seen as in a certain way when the reality is the program is just not that way. Some of these programs need to be rebuilt, tore down, and like built from scratch because the way that we want it to be seen does not coincide with the reality of what's behind the scenes, which then negatively impacts your brand, right? It's like you're being told, I'm taking you to a 5-star restaurant dinner, but you get there and it's really like a fast food place or the drive-in. It's like, okay, well, what was the disconnect there? We're trying to position this drive-through and this fast food as a 5-star establishment, and that's not, the position is going to be very, very difficult, right? So let me give you that tangent. So going back to what I was talking about, how do we ensure that we've built and positioned our program to speak to both their desires and their fears? Follow me here, right? How do we position a program to speak to both their desires and their fears? Now, the desires piece comes from your industry market research. I will leave that to you to figure out unless you decide to coach with me. In terms of building your offer in a way that eases any fears and talks about the ROI, I am going to give you a couple things today. But if you want a deeper dive into how to build an offer or rebuild an offer, I'm hosting a free workshop on Thursday called Limitless: How to Build More Offers to Make More Money in Less Time. It is completely free. You can visit the link in my Instagram bio or the title of this live stream to sign up. If you cannot come live on Thursday night, you will get access to the replay if you register. So again, if you want the building blocks of how to build an attractive and scalable offer, how to ensure that your offer sells out versus falling flat, how to streamline it for scale and decrease your cost, that's what we're going to cover on Thursday. So just quick tangent. Okay, let's backtrack. How do we position our offer to speak to those fears, right? Back in the day, meaning like 2-3 years ago, we were simply taught position for transformation, position for value. That was cute and that worked a couple years ago. But again, now we're in a space where everything is saturated. Everyone's really sophisticated. So we have to speak to a little bit more than just that, right? So when we think about our clients' fears, ideally, you're going to run into either one of 4 types of customers, like 4 archetypes of a customer. Now, I'm not going to cover the scammers. The scam customers is a whole different live stream. But you're either going to run into one of 4 types of customers. This is where I want you to take notes, because you have to, again, think about how am I positioning this program? Am I really speaking to this? So the first archetype is the person who's never hired a coach or a service provider or invested in a course before, right? Their fears, I don't speak to e-commerce, physical products, honey. I only talk about how to sell services and coaching programs and courses. Just answering a question on Instagram. So the person who's never hired a coach, a consultant, they've never bought a course, their fears center mainly around investment and commitment. Right? And when I say commitment, it's really around like the time commitment, how much work is going to be involved. And it's not that they're afraid of the work, but this is a completely new process, right? So there may be some outliers in there, but primarily with our new folks who've never really made investments like this, The fears really center around investment and commitment. So again, when we're thinking about positioning our program, how are we easing those fears in our positioning? How are we speaking to them on the sales page and in our content, right? To ensure that this is a safe space for them, right? So that's something that I want you to play around with. If you mainly target newbies in whatever space you deal with, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get this archetype, right? The person whose fears center around investment and commitment. Now, let me just give a quick tangent. Don't over-index on the money mindset content. At a certain point, it becomes kind of predatory and monotonous. And at some point, it starts to feel like, okay, you're just blaming the fact that you don't have any sales off of money mindset when the issue is really your marketing, positioning, potentially even offer. Just throw that out there. The second type of archetype I want you to think about is the person who has hired or invested before. They've hired the web designer, the graphic designer, they've hired the VA, they've hired the coach, they've hired before. They've seen results. They had a great experience and they want to go to their predetermined next level. Their fears center around access, strategy, and basically not getting what they got before. Because whenever you have a great experience with someone, if that person doesn't have a next level for you, then that means you have to go find somebody else. So that somebody else, you're always kind of subconsciously comparing it to the person you had before, right? Now, obviously, you can't necessarily speak to the person that they had before, but when you are doing your market research, which continues even after you onboard a client, you should be collecting market research data on your clients. You can actually find out who they invested with before you and begin to do some competitive analysis around what that next level looks like, what they desire, what that person offers. Again, not to copy, but to be competitive. You can be on high alert, right? So if I know, for example, that a bunch of my peers, a bunch of my clients, I'm going to make this up. Let's say a bunch of my clients just wrapped up a mindset program, like the mindset program with another coaches where they like started everything, right? And now they're finally ready to start a business. Again, hypothetical. So I would actually speak to what is the next level in your personal growth journey? How do we now take the mental work you've done and apply it to the tangible outcomes of having a business? I would really speak to that in my marketing and in my sales copy without necessarily referencing that person or their program. Let me know if that makes sense to you. I hope you're kind of picking up what I'm putting down here with that. Then going backwards to the access and strategy piece. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe that you have to offer all kinds of crazy access in order to sell a premium price program. But if you have the kind of client where access matters, then you need to think about that. And if you feel like, you know what, I am willing to do access, however you define access, but I can't do it for a lot of people, raise the price of the program, decrease the number of clients you have to take in, and now really position the value of this, right? Something for you to consider. The third piece there was that strategy, which means when you're writing your sales copy and you're doing your social media content, I see this mistake a lot. We're hyping up the before and after without talking about the roadmap to get there. And a lot of times this stems from either you not even having the roadmap, i.e. you haven't built your frameworks, or you being afraid to talk about it because you don't want anybody to copy from you, which I get it, right? But there is still a way to talk about your curriculum and your frameworks without giving away the entire pot, right? We'll talk more about that on Thursday. Something for you to consider. The third archetype of a client you may encounter, depending upon your business model and your positioning, is the person who has hired before and gotten scammed. And I define scam as the coach, consultant, course creator, service provider over-promised and under-delivered, in a sense of that client fully showed up, fully did all of the work, did what was necessary, but they weren't actually given what they were sold. They were told, you're going to learn all of these concepts. The concepts were not taught, right? They basically bought a bunch of fluff, a fluffy hot mess, right? In this case, this person, while they believe in investments, they lack trust. They fear getting taken advantage of. They are on high scam alert. This is why for this person, you blending in and sounding the same, sounding like all the big dogs, is not a good thing. This will send them running, right? You can easily tell if you have this client by your sales calls. And this is why I still believe sales calls are valuable. There's just certain things you can get from a sales call that you just can't get from a DM or a comment, right? So if you constantly get people who will, and I've found with this archetype, they're going to tell you. They are going to tell you, they're going to name drop, like they're going to give you all the tea on what happened. And they're going to be very direct and say, I'm a little hesitant to invest. They may not give you a yes on the phone depending upon how you sell, right? So in this case, when we're positioning our transformation, you have to start being real and realistic in how you sell your program. If you've watched any of my live streams or I've sold something, I always talk about the work. I talk about how it is hard work, right? I talk about the value of me streamlining that and saving you time with that hard work. But no matter what, no matter how many templates and videos and guides I give you, you still have to do that work. And when you are building something from scratch, it is going to take a lot of sweat equity. I am very clear on that because my program doesn't skip steps. So because it doesn't skip steps, if you've been conditioned to believe that being a successful business owner is simply just spending a couple $1,000s here and there and posting pretty pictures, I'm not the coach for you. And it's important for me, especially as a business coach, and as in a space where people, like my particular niche is one that kind of catches the most flack. It is important for me to be realistic about what's expected of you to actually see results. And that realism is actually what helps to ease that other person, that person who is skeptical. I'm not selling overnight dreams. I'm not guaranteeing that if you use this particular line of sales copy that I give you, everything is going to drastically change. I'm very realistic about that, right? So that's an example of how you would overcome that fear. And again, go through your ideal client profile, go through your past client roster, really assess who you really attract the most, and think through from your niche and your program perspective, how would you attack these objections? How would you ease these fears? How do you need to now update how you position and deliver your content so you're speaking to this, right? The last archetype here is the person who has had mean girl interactions. This is for my women. Mean girl interactions with coaches, course creators, providers, either at events, conferences, or in group programs. They've had some catty interactions in some form or fashion, and their fears now revolve around being seen as a number versus a human. They have fears around not being visible or seen in group environments. They have a fear of not being valued as a client. They have a fear of not being truly supported by their coach, especially if in a group program environment, they've been gaslit or ignored. Child, this one right here makes my blood boil. Oh, it makes my blood boil. And this is going to have to be, this topic will either need to be a podcast or a private live stream in my Facebook group, because I just have so many theories on where this comes from and why people act like this and, all of that. But anyway, Self-Care Lifestyle on Instagram says, I tell people, if you aren't in a space to be committed, disciplined, or accountability, this isn't for you. I can't do the work. Girl, you ain't never lied, right? We can't do the work for you. So in this case, right, especially if you are someone who offers a group program, because I'm going to be very honest with you, people who've had catty experiences like that, they are going to be the ones who prefer one-on-one. Hands down, period, point blank, they're going to prefer one-on-one. They're going to be so turned off from courses and group programs, they're going to be over it, right? So if you offer one-on-one, you not necessarily are in a clear, but you're going to have an easier time. But again, you have to and this is something that necessarily you don't have to worry about, but more internally for them, if they see you do or say something that reminds them of that person, they may be triggered. That's not necessarily our fight to fight, but this is just another reason why I want you to ensure that you aren't subconsciously mirroring other people in your industry if that's not authentically who you are. I don't want you to start talking a certain way if that's not who you are, dressing a certain way if that's not who you are, selling certain things if that's not even what you want to sell or really your expertise. I really want you to stay in your own unique magic, your own unique power. But if you sell a course or a group program, baby, uphill battle. Uphill battle, right? uphill battle. In this case, a lot of this is going to be tackled on your sales page and on your sales calls, right? So when you talk about your community, your coaching calls, I really want you to do a lot of reframing around what that experience is like. So instead of simply just saying we have group calls, I want maybe even break down the format for them of like how the calls flow, how do you ensure everyone's seen and heard. I really want you to break down the fact that I'm just speaking for my program, right? My program is application only. You can't just buy the program. I've turned people away who are ready to pay in full because they had nasty negative energy, and I knew that they were going to bring the whole group down, right? I'd rather lose one person than to lose 20 people. That's just my philosophy, right? So you have to ensure that you have some kind of process if you're selling a group program where you're vetting, because when you choose to have a group program, I know people are just doing it to chase a bag, but you have a responsibility to cultivate a safe space. Coaching communities, especially if you market to Black and brown people, you have a responsibility to curate a safe space. We get on here all day long and we want to down the white coaches and say they need equity training, they need inclusion training, but at the same time, we're not creating a safe space right here at home for our own folks, right? And I'm not saying that the white coaches don't need to be held accountable, because maybe they do too, but it starts here, right? Are we playing favorites on our group calls? Are we calling on the same people? Are we happy to answer one person's questions and not answer another person's questions? And it's crazy because I've seen it in real time. And past masterminds I've been in, to the point where I remember reaching out to someone privately because their question was like not answered. They were gaslit. And I'm like, this ain't even my shit, but I'm going to go answer her question because that shouldn't ever happen. Like, maybe it's because my strengths finders, I'm high relator. So I'm just like, oh no, maybe it's because I'm a life coach. I don't know. But I don't like people feeling like that. I'm also introverted too. So I'm really big on people feeling comfortable, right? So you have to go the extra mile. If you don't want to do that, then go to having a passive course. Passive courses operate differently anyway, but I'm just saying we have a bigger level of responsibility than simply showing up on a Zoom and saying, okay, what do y'all want to talk about? You know what I mean? So just something I want you to consider. So what can you do, right, to take what I just gave you today and now go apply it to something you're going to do this week, whether that's going live to sell your program, maybe that's updating your sales page, maybe that's rebuilding your program altogether. But I really want you to take away from this really thinking through not just the transformation they're going to get, but how are you positioning your offer as a safe space, as a safe investment? And safe investment is like an oxymoron, but sometimes even by adjusting your program promise or your program premise can subconsciously send a signal that you're the real deal, right? It can give them a little bit more courage to fill out the application, a little bit more courage to book the call, or however you choose to sell, right? It can impact how you choose to structure your program, how you choose to accept applicants into your program. You have a lot of options here, but I want you to take this and I really want you to sit with it and think about it, and then from there, update your positioning, okay? I hope that you have found this valuable. If you have any questions, you're welcome to comment underneath the replay. Again, if you want some support in rebuilding or building your offer in a way that stands out, that helps you to build a scalable business and a scalable foundation, I do want you to come to my workshop on Thursday. It is free. The link is in my Instagram bio to apply to attend, as well as in the title of this live stream. And with that, I will be back to talk to you guys tomorrow. Same time, same channels. I forgot the name of my live stream, y'all, but it's already posted on my Facebook page if you want to check it out. So I will be back tomorrow. You guys have a great rest of